Welcome back to another college football podcast, the RPO College Football Podcast, your favorite podcast out there. My name is Jerome Jones, the humble host, and I'm with none other than the man, the myth, the legend. You already know who he is, Mr. Ray Roberts. First and foremost, man, how are you feeling? Because the season is coming. It's almost here. I can feel it. How you feeling?
I'm very excited, but I'm ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Basically, 3 weeks from tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and you brought it to my acknowledgement that we got a Hall of Fame game tomorrow.
Yes,
So we got some football. We got some football.
Jets Browns. Yep.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah,
Jets
well,
Browns
it's
tomorrow. So it's a
interesting.
preseason game.
I'm really more interested in the ceremony on Saturday when the players get inducted. But
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, and I get that too, and I rightfully understand why, Mister. I
yeah,
understand why, Mister Zach, Mister Zach Thomas.
yes, it is.
Long awaited, well deserved. I'm glad. I'm glad he's in too.
I
I'm glad.
believe so.
I'm not even a Dolphins fan.
I just think that for some reason linebacker is an underrated position, especially now.
Yeah,
And if you're not the prototype, you wait a little while. 5'10", 5'11", 230-pound linebacker is not supposed to be able to play in the NFL, especially not a white guy. But he's very good. So
no, he's
one of my
a cold
favorites.
white boy. He's a cold
Yeah.
white boy.
Yeah, one of my
That's what he
favorites.
But we're super excited today because we got a great lineup of teams that we're going to be talking about. So if you don't know, we do each week we've been doing team reviews, seeing how they're going to do for the season. We got really good teams right now, some SEC teams. We actually going to be booked in by a couple of Georgia teams. Me being in the Georgia area, well, I'm in Georgia, being in the Atlanta area rather. I'm super excited about today. I hope this be a really exciting game. So let's get right into it because we want to talk about these games and we want to talk about some of these players on some of these teams, man. And we're gonna start off the day by talking about Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech, everybody's gonna be like, Georgia Tech, whatever, blah blah blah. But you gotta remember, Georgia Tech got some guys, and they've been recruiting really well lately. But let's get right into them, Ray. First and foremost, how you think about their offense, a couple of the quarterbacks they got, and how you think they're gonna fare with their quarterbacks.
I'm anxious to see what Hans King can do. I think he's an exciting player. Georgia Tech is one of the teams that predominantly like to run the ball a lot. So
Correct.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I do like their left and right tackle, both Corey Robinson and Jordan Williams, both good football players.
Mm-hmm.
Not to jump too far ahead of myself, but I just think it was a down team last year, and they're one of them teams that if they don't get a lead on you, they have a hard time coming from behind. So
Definitely. Yeah, I think they're an ascending team. I think they're doing some of the right things. Who did they beat last year? That I think they beat somebody like upset somebody last year. I can't remember.
Their best one was probably against North Carolina.
There you go.
21-17.
Yeah. So that's one of the things, you can get one of those wins against one of those big teams. You start getting some eyes on you a little bit. I know they've been snagging a couple of guys in the recruiting circle this last couple of months. So been doing really well. But let's talk about their running backs, as you said, because they are definitely capable of producing some good running backs. As we know, Jahmyr Gibbs, who went in the first round this year, played at Alabama, but before he came to Alabama, he actually transferred from Georgia Tech, which I been hearing about him since I came down to Georgia, and was always like, man, this kid is really good. And then when he transferred to Alabama, I was like, oh yeah, he's about to really his stocks is really about to rise. And he got picked 15th overall by the Detroit Lions this past offseason. What do you think about their running back situation this year, though?
I think Dante Smith is a good football player. He's a senior. He's the kind of guy who's going to If you block for 4 or 5 yards, he'll get that 4 or 5 yards. So he's not the playmaker that Jahmyr Gibbs is.
No. And it again, I'm not trying to say that they are, but they always had, like you said, Ray, always had a solid running back group always back there, run first kind of team. So definitely looking forward to see how they do with their running back situation. As far as wide receivers, tight ends, anybody kind of stand out to you, Ray?
And you know what? No one special, really. I mean, not really. Malik Rutherford is a young guy. He's not a bad football player. Christian Leary. I do think that their running backs will still be the way they move the ball because, again, Dante Smith's good. And Trey Cooley, who's a little bit more explosive, a little bit more of a playmaker. I think that's where they're going to have to make plays with their run game. Again, because I think Haynes King is a good football player, but I'm not sure if he's going to be a great passer yet. And their wide receivers are nothing special. So
the funny thing is that, like, even when their best receiver that come out of that team, probably the best player that came out of that team was Calvin Johnson. And even when it was Calvin Johnson coming out, of the draft, the team was still a run first team.
They were.
So it tells you a lot about, like, Calvin Johnson. When he actually got to the NFL, it's like, oh wow, like he's a lot better than we thought, and a lot of it was because he was in a run first type of offense and where they didn't pass a lot.
Well, the thing you knew about Calvin Johnson in college is he was a very good blocker.
Correct.
You didn't know he was as explosive as he was until he did have some highlights in college. He did, but not on a consistent basis. But when you got him at the combine, you saw what a freak athlete he was.
Yeah, and maybe you can find somebody like that on Georgia Tech. You never know. I mean, again, like, run first offense is kind of hard to be like, oh, we have a superstar amongst us as far as wide receivers. And, obviously I know Georgia Tech fans are definitely hoping that they can get somebody like that eventually, but it's always hard to kind of like justify that because you want to run the first offense. So we'll definitely see about how that goes.
I think they have a pretty good offensive line.
Yeah.
Corey Robinson, Jordan Williams, Weston Franklin that plays center, and Joe Fossil plays left guard. Those guys are good football players. So I think that's why I think you're going to be able to rely on the run game a little bit more than throwing the ball. So
yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about their defense, right? Because I think the defense is always the strongest point of this team, especially the defensive line. What do you think about their defensive line, Ray?
I like their line a lot. Their nose tackle, Dequan Dallas, is a very good, big impact football player. Good player. They do play a traditional 4-3. Kyle Kenner plays their weak side line, like edge rusher, is a good football player. Miles Sims, corner, who I like a lot. And there's one safety, Miles Brooks, is a good football player also. I mean, I think their defense is going to be where they win games. But again, I think you can play better defense if you find some balance in your offense. So,
100%. Yeah, I think this is like you say, Ray, it's a solid defense. I think if you do what you need to do on offense to keep this defense fresh, I think you have a solid type of defense over here. I think it's funny they got Keanu Watson, who's the son of one of the coaches there. So the guy that we as Inside the Hatches, we know that his dad fairly well. So he's one of the guys that I'll always be looking at, see how that goes, especially when it's a coach's son. They get a little bit more eyes on them, but for good reasons, because obviously they got that personal kind of training from their fathers and stuff like that. So he's going to be a guy I kind of keep my eye on. I definitely want to get a special shout out to my guy who's coming in as a freshman. Obviously, I don't had to name drop him a little bit, but Nakari Ashley is going to be a linebacker. He's more of an outside linebacker who could play tight end. He's a good playing guy. So keep an eye on him. Keep his name in your mind because he's a very freakish athlete, and I think he's going to be a good one for Georgia Tech down the road. So just want to point out him.
I mean, they did make moves in bringing Christian Leary, who was a wide receiver at Alabama last year. He's pretty far down in their depth chart. So
Mhm.
he moved over and entered the transfer portal and went to Georgia Tech. And
Yeah.
Trey Cooley's a guy who's a little more of a slot kid who played
Yeah.
at Louisville last year. So they've tried to upgrade the wide receiver position. But we'll see how that works out,
No, 100%. Yeah, and I'm very curious to see how they do this year. Super excited about them, especially during the future. Like I said, been getting some good recruits coming in. So, they were going to be interesting. They're definitely going to be interesting. All right, let's get to our next team. Oh, sorry, before we do that, I almost forgot. Let's get to their schedule real quick. So, for some reason, the last year's record got erased already. So I can't see what their record was last year. Do you know, right? 5-7. Thank you.
5-7.
So I don't have it anymore on my site. The site I use, like I told you guys, I usually use CBS. But I'm sorry, I guess they restarted already for this year. But let's get to the 2024 schedule real quick. All right, so the first two games are going to be home versus Louisville and South Carolina State, I believe that is. They're going to be away for the next two games versus Ole Miss and Wake Forest. Home for Bowling Green, away for Miami. Home for the next two games versus Boston College and North Carolina. Away for two games versus Virginia and Clemson. And then home for the last two games versus Syracuse and end of the season against Georgia. So we're going to be talking about Georgia a little bit later on. But looking at that schedule, Ray, how that's looking for you?
Well, Jerome. They're going to have a hard time winning 5 games in this schedule, to be honest with you.
I think they can sneak 4.
Yeah, I can see 4.
That's sneaking. Ugh. Literally sneaking.
I mean, 4. South Carolina State, Bowling Green are teams they should beat.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not another game on this schedule that I think that there's a team like.
No definites. Yeah, I think they have a chance to beat Boston College. I think that'd be a good game. I think they might have a chance against Syracuse. Maybe Syracuse did lose a lot.
They did. Yeah, that is a game where they should at least be able to compete.
Correct.
But them other games, Georgia, Clemson, at Virginia is a winnable game.
Yeah.
North Carolina,
the ACC
they were a more explosive offense. I'd say maybe.
Yeah.
But North Carolina put points on the board. Boston College again should be a competitive game, and Miami should be a decent game. Again, if Miami jumps out to a lead, that's where you have a problem with that.
Yeah. But, no, I agree. It's just definitely going to be tough with those games, and you ended the season with Georgia. I mean, what a way to end your season. I mean, obviously that's an interstate rivalry, but man, to have them that late in the season, I'll say that's definitely beneficial for Georgia playing a game like that to end the season. To get some, college football, numbers up a little bit, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be a rough season. It's definitely going to be a rough season. I think they could sneak a couple of wins in there. They can maybe sneak one against Louisville to start the season. Maybe that's going to be tough. Like you said, maybe at Miami. I don't see that happening, honestly. Maybe a Syracuse. I think they possibly can beat Boston College, but we're looking at a UNC, a Clemson, a Georgia, even Wake Forest, which I think is way better than. I think they're going to be a good team this year. Ole Miss, it's going to be a tough.
They did beat North Carolina last year.
They did, and they're home again this year.
And they're home this year, so I guess it's absolutely a winnable game.
It's possible. No, and not saying it's not winnable. It's definitely possible, but I don't know. I mean, and games like that always come down to the quarterback, and Drake Mays is a quarterback, and they're gonna have to stop him from doing stuff. Yeah. So that's gonna be a very interesting game for real.
It is. Very. Yeah. And again, if you look at the schedule, it's hard to come up with more than 5 wins, though. There really is.
Yeah, It is. It's really scraping the bottom of the barrel to
It
get
is.
some good stuff. All right, let's get to our next team is Arizona. But before we begin, if you are watching us live, we are a live interactive podcast. So if you want to put a comment in here, you definitely can. And as on cue, we got one. Rags and Fitness. I'll be at Georgia Tech versus Louisville. Hey, Rags and Fitness, thanks for getting on. Appreciate you checking us out. Georgia versus Louisville. I might try to get to that one. I might see you there, man. I appreciate you getting on for us. I appreciate you. But yeah, that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be a good game. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Honestly, I feel like that game is gonna tell us a lot about how Georgia Tech is gonna be. But as you see, we do have live interactive podcast, and you can definitely put your comments in here and let us know what you think about some of these games. If you're going to a game, let us know. Awesome. So, Ray, if you want to say something.
No, just looking
Okay.
forward to everything getting underway here. That's all.
Definitely. All right, let's get to our next team, which is Arizona. So the Arizona Wildcats. So they are going to be going into the season with quarterback
Jaden
Jalen Lamore
Galura.
Lamora, right?
Galura.
Laura. From Hawaii quarterback actually. First and foremost, Ray, what do you know about him?
I know he was a very good player for them last year. Threw for almost 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. Good athlete, good solid player. A little smaller version of Marcus Mariota,
Yeah,
maybe. I think he's a
6 foot
good player.
tall.
Good college player though. Exciting. I think that Arizona's problems are going to mostly be on defense. To be honest with you, I do.
Definitely.
I think their offense will move the ball and they'll score points, but their defense is. I look at their roster, and besides for Jacob Manu, their inside linebacker, I don't see anything that I really worry about on defense.
Yeah, definitely. To get back on the quarterback situation, they got three freshmen, and Jaden's the only non-freshman on that team as a quarterback. So, I mean, I would say that the ball should be in his hands for sure.
It will be. Like I said, he threw for like 3,600 yards last year,
Correct.
25 touchdowns. He had a really good year, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't have a good year again this year.
Definitely. Let's talk about the rest of their offense real quick. Ray, any other receivers, wide receivers, tight ends, kind of stack up to you?
Cowling is a senior. He's a really good football player. Tatoria McMillan is a sophomore. He's a really good football player. Their left tackle is Jaden Morgan or Jordan Morgan. Josh Baker at center. Savannah Jana. I'm having a hard Savine. His last name is really hard, but he's a big mauling right tackle. So their offense is loaded. It'll be a matter of if they can get some stops for them.
Definitely. Yeah, I think they got some dogs on offense. Let's talk about their running backs real quick, though, Ray.
Michael O'Reilly is just a true playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
He does everything for them. He can run. He can catch the ball. This is an exciting offense with very little help from the defense, to be honest with you. I look at their scores last year. The lowest amount of points they gave up was 20 in 2 games. And then they gave up 35, 45, 45, 49, 49, 49, 39. And it's too many.
Yeah, and looking at their roster now, they don't have a lot of seniors either even after all that. So, I mean, looking at their defense, it's littered with a lot of freshmen, sophomore. There's a few seniors here and there, and they probably be your main starters. But I'm looking at freshmen, sophomore. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had a lot of transfers as well this year, right?
They do, but they don't have them penciled in as starters right now.
No, I'm saying they got transfers out, like players. Oh,
they did. Some teams, but they also had a Traden Stukes transferred in there from I forget what team he played for last year, and he's probably better than Charles Yates, the guy that has listed as starting. Mm-hmm. But again, they're going to make him prove that he should start. So
definitely, yeah. So, anybody else that kind of stands out to you on this defense, though, Ray?
Not really. Again, I like Manu. I think he's a good player. He's a good off-ball linebacker with some thump
Yeah.
to him. I think he's a good player. The problem is you get to him pretty quickly because the defensive line is not great. So
Yeah. He also kind of small. He's a little bit on the smaller side.
he is, but their whole defense is kind of on the smaller side. That's part
Yeah,
of the problem.
that's definitely true. Definitely true. So, well, we'll see. I mean, I'm seeing 5'9", 5'11". I'm seeing a lot of 5'11" guys on this team.
Yes,
So,
which is not.
yeah. So we'll definitely see how that goes for
I
them.
mean, like it is the Pac-12, so
Correct.
no one can play really defense. So.
Yeah. Ray said it before I could. What was the record last year, Ray? Do you remember?
They were 5-7, another 5-17.
Definitely. So
They
5
were
and 17.
3-6 in the Pac-12 though, which
Yeah.
is not good.
Not good at all. Yeah. So let's talk about their schedule for this upcoming season, and they're gonna start off the season at home versus North Arizona. They're gonna be away from Mississippi State, home for UTEP, away for Stanford, home for Washington, away for the next two games versus USC and Washington State, home versus Oklahoma. Home for next two games for Oregon State and UCLA, away for Colorado, home for Utah, and away for Arizona State. So with that lineup, what are we looking at, Ray?
Again, I'm struggling to get 5 wins.
Yeah.
One. I see.
2, 3.
Honestly, Jerome, if you said to me what games am I sure they're going to win, they should be Northern Arizona.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's not another team on the schedule I know they can beat.
Yeah, because like I'm looking at UTEP, and UTEP been stepping up. Like UTEP has been a pretty solid team actually the last couple of years. The next game after that, I would probably say Stanford because they've been stinking it up. That might just be a good game because I think honestly I kind of feel like they're kind of evenly matched if I can be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stanford has a better defense, but I mean,
but they could outscore Stanford.
Say again?
They could outscore them though.
Yeah.
That's a game I think they can win.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'll beat Washington. They're not going to beat USC. Washington State at Washington State is a tough game for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State is a game they could win, but it's not going to be easy for them.
Yeah.
At UCLA is better than them. Colorado, again, we don't know what they are yet, but by then, I'm sure we know a lot about Colorado by then.
100%.
And then Utah's a tough team.
Yeah.
Arizona State's a rivalry game. They could win that. Arizona State's not good, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because, like you said, there's not a team that outside of the first game, it's not a team that you can be like, yeah, that should be a win. Just very close games or a game that should say they maybe can sneak out a win in there, but having a schedule where you have to play Utah, you have to play USC, UCLA, who's been looking very well the last couple of years, Washington, who's been a solid team, Mississippi State, it's been a solid team. It's hard for you to be like they can't even compete in any of those games because Arizona hasn't been that great. So definitely. So all right. So yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna do this year. I don't know if they can beat some of those teams, man.
I think it's a tough schedule. I don't know that.
So. Yeah. All right, let's get to our next game. The next team is Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State is going to be led by Peyton Thompson. So where did Peyton Thompson come from? Oh, I'm sorry. They got Alan Bowman too, who transferred from Arizona, I want to say. Then was on Michigan, and now he's there.
Yeah.
So this guy's like a super senior.
Yeah.
He's definitely super senior. But I liked him. I thought he was going to be a good backup for Michigan. I didn't realize he transferred, honestly, because I thought when he came in with us, he was a grad transfer. So
Mhm.
I didn't know that you could do that twice.
Mhm.
So
I don't know the rules anymore, to be honest with you, Jerome.
no, for real, it's so hard to
Hard to
keep up
follow.
with. It really is. It's so hard to keep up with. So
Yeah, I mean, look at like, and I know it's a little bit different with the recruiting part of it. You
yeah,
thought, what's his name was Dante Moore was going to go to Notre Dame, and then no, he's going to go to Oregon. And then he's going to. He had no idea where he was going to. Whoever offered him the most money, I believe.
yeah.
To be honest with you, so
It's really hard to keep up with that. So Alan Bowman. Oh, I'm sorry. Alan Bowman is actually from Tennessee, Texas Tech. That's where he's from. Texas Tech.
yeah,
But
but he played last year on Michigan, right? He was on their
yeah,
roster.
he was a third string on Michigan.
Yeah,
Yep. So it's gonna be interesting to see, if he can compete. I'm pretty sure he still wants to go out there and compete. I thought that was a weird. If he thought he was gonna come in and compete with Michigan, I thought that was weird because I didn't think he had a chance, to be honest. But I did like him as a solid backup. But now he's going to a team that he can possibly start on. So it look like it's gonna be him or Peyton Thompson. Do you know who they projecting as the starter right now, right?
where they had Bowman as the starter.
Interesting. Okay.
They do. They had Bowman listed as a starter on the draft on the media guide. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. We'll see how he does. I thought he was a solid backup. I mean, solid player in general. And he can play. He can play on certain teams, but I just didn't think he was going to have a chance with Michigan. So maybe he just wanted to come in and get some experience from Jim Harbaugh and that offensive coordinator. So we'll definitely see. We're definitely gonna be talking about Michigan soon, though, for sure. But
Yeah, I just think he didn't think he was going to start on Michigan, so he wanted to make a fresh start. So
yeah, yeah. I understand the second transfer. I didn't understand him actually going to Michigan if he thought
right.
he was on the spot.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about the running backs, right? Anybody kind of stand out to you?
No, not really. I mean, Ollie Gordon, their one running back, is a solid player, but again, he's not nothing that's going to electrify you or excite you. He's just a good
Yeah,
solid player. So
yeah, definitely. Receivers, tight ends.
yeah, Brendan Priestley, I think is a good football player.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little rangy guy who catches just about everything thrown to him. I think he's a good football player. Um, their left tackle, Jake Springfield, is a good football player. The left guard, Cole Bennington, is another guy who's a good football player. So there's players on offense. Oklahoma State usually does have solid offenses. I was surprised they let Spencer Sanders leave them, to be honest with you, because he was good for them. I don't
He was.
understand why he left, but
He was, man. And that was a big reason why I liked, this Oklahoma State team for so much last year because of Sanders. So not having him is a big blow. I mean, again, Alan Bowman is good enough to win you some games though. So it's not like they're completely out of it, but Sanders was a difference maker for me and on this offense. So
Mhm.
I would have tried my best to keep him on the team. So all right, let's talk about some defense now, right? Anybody stand up to you over there on that defensive side?
Xavier Benson, their middle linebacker, is a good football player.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Black, their senior corner, is not a bad player. Everyone else is like older guys that are just good, solid players.
Yeah.
One exceptional. They're all okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, we're talking about Oklahoma State. Not much defense. They're usually an offensive team too, so
Definitely. Going back to Bentley, man. Benson. I'm sorry, Xavier Benson, linebacker with the number 1 on his back. You could tell, he's a baller.
why? Because he wears number one.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you have to be a baller if you're wearing number 1 as a linebacker. Like you if you going out there and saying you're good at linebacker and you're wearing number 1 and you stink it up, like you're gonna look like a fool, man.
I guess, well, he is a good football player, so I
He
guess
is.
that
He
kind of
is.
makes sense. I
Yeah.
think number one for any position, to be honest with you.
You don't like at a quarterback?
I don't.
Really?
I don't like it, man.
I didn't like it when Jalen Hurts did it. I like number 2 for Jalen Hurts. I didn't like it at first. I got it warmed up to me, but I kind of like the number 2 on him.
Well, of course, Tua wears 1, and I knew, of course, he liked 13, and he wasn't wearing 13 in Miami. So
Yeah,
I guess number 1 is fine. I just don't like it's funny. Before lately, the only number 1 quarterback I ever was Warren Moon.
yeah. That's a name, man.
My man was awesome. So
Yeah, definitely. For sure. All right, let's get to Oklahoma State's schedule now. What was their record last year, Ray?
7-6, 4-5 in their conference.
7-6, and that's the crazy thing because they were 7-6 last year, and I felt like they had a lot of potential to be a little bit better this year if they would have kept Sanders, man. They would have kept him. I would have been like, oh, I'm excited with him because I think he would have been a junior at this point. Yeah, that would have been good to see. But let's get to our schedule real quick. They're going to start the year out at home versus Central Arkansas. They're going to be away for Arizona State. They're going to be home versus South Alabama. Away for Iowa State. Home for the next 2 games versus Kansas State and Kansas. Away for West Virginia. Home for the next 2 games versus Cincinnati and Oklahoma. Away for USC and Houston, and back home to end the season versus BYU. So with that, looking at that schedule, how are you thinking? How you
I think
feeling?
it'd be better this year. I do.
Better than 7?
I think better than 8, maybe 8 wins.
1, 2, 3. I think they can start their season 4-0 for sure. Eric, we talked about Kansas State being not being the same team with losing so much pieces to the NFL this year. So they could beat that. They could win that game, and it's still early in the season.
Use Vaughn's highlights from the other day.
Dude, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Just stick to college, man. As you don't know, Deuce Vaughn is one of my favorite players in this last draft, and he got drafted by my hated team, the Cowboys. So as you see, I wear my Eagles very proudly. But yeah, we're not gonna talk about that anyway.
He made a little screen pass and made 4 guys miss him.
Dude, he's amazing. He's amazing. I'm not surprised. I'm just upset. Not surprised. But anyway, Kansas, I think they can beat that. West Virginia, I think that's gonna be actually a pretty good game. Cincinnati may not beat that game. It's possible, but may not beat them. Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's gonna get them. UCF, I think UCF is gonna beat them. They can beat Houston, I think, just because of the pieces that they lost as well. BYU is a team that I'm not sure about. I don't know much like as far as how good they can possibly be. So I'm on the same lines as you, Ray, about like 7 games, 8 games, maybe.
Agreed. I think they're an 8 win team, maybe 9.
Yeah.
I think that BYU game could be a big game because BYU is pretty physical, usually pretty physical.
Yeah.
But they're not explosive on offense like they have been in the past.
100%.
But I think it's a game where they can win that. If they win that game, they can get up to 9 wins.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yes. They can do, and like I said, Alan Bowman, don't sleep on him. He's a solid quarterback. He's not gonna super wow you at any point, but he's a good guy. I like him. He's a good college quarterback that can be serviceable and get you guys pretty far. So
yeah.
I like them. So let's see how they do, man, this year. I think they could be fairly decent. So if you're an Oklahoma State fan, I think the schedule is favorable for you guys for sure. All right. It's time to get to some of these SEC teams, some of these high-powered SEC teams. So if you're watching, definitely stay tuned for this one. We're going to be talking about some good teams right here. And if you want to chime in, please do. And let's get to the first team. So in normal cases, because if you can probably tell, we talk about the lower end teams first and then go to the higher end teams at the end. In most cases, we'll be talking about Alabama last, but in this case, we're going to talk about them second to last because Alabama been having some hiccups the last couple of years, but we'll see how they do this year because they're gonna be led by their man Jalen Melro. Um, and he had a little bit of playing time last year as a freshman, but now he's coming back as a sophomore. I feel like the organization is really behind him at the quarterback position. What's your thought on Melro?
I basically heard Nick Saban say it's still an open competition between three quarterbacks. I heard
Who's the three?
Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Buckner, who transferred there from Notre Dame.
Oh yeah.
And here's the thing you got to remember: Tommy Rees now is the offensive coordinator at Alabama.
Yeah.
Him and Tyler Buckner have a relationship for like 3 years now.
That's very true.
We'll see, man. Like, I think all three kids have their pluses and their minuses. Tyler Buckner's has always been he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So, but he's a talented athlete with a good, strong arm. Ty Simpson, again, decent athlete.
Solid. Simpson's coming in as a freshman.
Yeah. Jalen Milroe, again, talented player. But again, it's something new. They haven't had to worry about quarterback for 3 years. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a interesting position because with Alabama, they have been a team that not necessarily needed a superstar quarterback, but the last few years they have had, really strong case at quarterback. You had Jalen Hurts, you had, your guy Tua, last year you had Bryce. I think there was somebody else in between. The guy from the Patriots, Mac Jones. So they've been producing some good quarterbacks the last few years where they had solid quarterbacks. Where in the past they really didn't need, super quarterbacks. They had the Greg, what's his name? Greg,
McElroy.
Greg McElroy's of the world, and those kind of quarterbacks where they wasn't nothing special, but they had another
quarterback whose wife is more famous than he is.
I'm dead. You're not wrong, but that's funny.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong at all. But yeah, so it's gonna be one of those. I think it's gonna be one of those years, or maybe next couple of years again, where they kind of like, don't have a superstar guy, but they have solid guys that can maybe, tote the rock a little bit. But let's talk about their running back position, because obviously this is going to have to be the premier position right now with, the unknowns of the quarterback position. So let's talk about the running backs. Who kind of stands out to you, Ray?
I mean, they have two guys that are both unproven, Chase McKellen and Roydell Williams, both good, solid prospects, but haven't seen them do a whole lot. Both of them have done some nice things, but neither one of them have really been the guy yet. And last year, their quarterback was so talented, kind of hid a lot of the problems with them last year, because they did not run the ball last year as well as they have in previous years. So
yeah, they do have a guy on their team that just coming in as a freshman, and I'm very curious to see how much playing time they'll allow him this year, because I'm not sure if they're gonna actually refresh him, or if they do, they're gonna do the redshirting thing. I think it's the first 4 games you're allowed to play and then still get redshirted. Justice Hayes from down here in Georgia, Beaufort, Georgia, actually not too far from me. That kid is a baller. That kid can play. I mean, he is if you like Mark Ingram, he's kind of a Mark Ingram, a bigger Mark Ingram, I think. He got that same, like, very solid speed, but very tough, hard to bring down kind of running back. I think he's the future. He's the future at running back right there. So I'm curious if they're going to give him some playing time this year. I think they will, at least for the first few games, and see how he does. But I think he's going to be a beast back there for sure. Let's get to the wide receiver positions, right? Anybody kind of sticks out to you there?
Yeah, Ja'Cory Brooks, Jermaine Burton, both good players. Just depend, like, it's a lot of that's going to depend on who the quarterback is and how well they play. but they're both good players. So.
Yeah, Brooke is definitely gonna be their number one guy. I think he's gonna be the guy that everybody kind of focuses on, for sure. Who else?
Jermaine Burton again is a proven guy. He's a senior,
Yeah.
but he's been a good, solid, reliable receiver. And they do have a Kobe Printance, who is a sophomore this year, who I think they have high hopes for down the road. But
yeah,
maybe you get him on the field and get some production from him this year.
100%. Yeah, I think they got solid receivers out there. What about the tight end position? They got a lot of tight ends on their roster.
They do. No one, Robbie Oots, CJ Dipra, both good players, but neither one is proven yet. So again, we'll see. We're almost evaluating them as high school players going into college more than reliable college players right now. So
they got 12 tight ends on their roster. Jeez.
Not surprised. They probably all do something a little different.
Yeah.
Some are blockers, couple of inline blockers.
But you know what? I mean, it might be due to the fact that they're gonna be running a lot more, so they're gonna have those 12 personnels where they have 2 tight ends, maybe 3 tight ends at a time in certain packages, and just stack them up and run. So, I mean, if you're gonna be doing a lot of that, why not have them?
As talented as a runner as Bryce Young was, he still was a passer who ran the ball. Correct. These other guys could be run first guys, especially Tommy Buckner. Yeah. When he made plays for Notre Dame, he made plays running the ball more than passing.
Correct. Yeah, and I got the
same. Simpson is the same way. So
yeah, not even Melra. I got the sense from him too. Just how he was playing at the end of the year when they were blowing people out and got some playing time. He gave me a lot of that too. I think what's his name got injured a little bit too last year. Bryce.
Yeah. And maybe you said maybe you play some 12 personnel and you use your quarterback in the run game, maybe opens things up a little bit for you.
Definitely.
Alabama's only going to go as far as their defense. Their defense has been failing in the last 3 years, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely. And let's talk about their offensive line. Obviously, that's going to be led by J.C. Lenahan. I think he's probably their best offensive lineman, but you better talking about linemen than me, Ray. So I'm gonna let you handle this one.
Well, J.C. Lenahan is a right tackle. He is a road grading, physical, massive guy, so he's a very good football player. Seth McLaughlin is their center. He's very good. Everybody around them, though, their left guard, Dorian Dalcourt, is a solid player, but nothing special. And everybody else is young. That's the thing that kind of bothers me about them. Right tackle is a junior. Right guard's a sophomore. Left tackle is a freshman right now. So you're talking about a very unproven offensive line, too.
Left tackle is Oloris. Is that him who's going to be starting?
Elijah Pritchard.
Oh, Pritchard. Okay.
And Caden Proctor, who's a freshman, who actually had a father who played in the NFL for a while. So he's, again, probably a guy there that they think down the road will be good. It's just a matter of how well can they coach him up and get them on the field, I guess,
Yeah, and that's always a problem with the freshmen, just trying to get them acclimated to that position. So, I mean, if there is a team that can thrive with having young linemen, it is Alabama, because they did it with Evan Neal. He played very well for those years that they pinned him. I think they actually pinned him in as a freshman guard at when he got there too, if I'm not mistaken. I think he played as a freshman and then started every game since. So if there is a team that's going to do it, Alabama can do it. They've been doing it for, in the past.
Well, again, you have quarterbacks who you could use them in the run game and probably help out your offensive line a little bit.
Definitely.
So I mean, again, it's going to come down to what their defense can do. I'm really interested to see what Tommy Rees does as offensive coordinator.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
So let's he did some okay things at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
he struggled against good teams, though.
No, he does. Yeah. Let's get to the defense, Ray. This defense is coming in, losing some of their big pieces. Obviously, Will Anderson is probably the biggest piece that we can talk about that they lost this year. First and foremost, how you think they're going to fare, and who you think they got that are kind of stands out to you, right?
Crazy thing is, their best two players are probably their corners.
Yeah,
Corey McKinstry and Teron Arnold are both good.
I think they both have a chance to be a first rounders.
They're both first round picks right now, dude.
Yeah.
McKinstry could wind up being a top 5 pick, top 10.
Yeah.
So they're really good. I do like Jaheim Otis and Tim Smith, their nose tackle and right defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, Alabama plays a hybrid.
Yeah.
3-4, 4-3. They kind of mix it up a little bit. Sometimes they'll play a 4-2-5, 3-3, 3-3-5. So they do a lot of different things in their backfield.
Yeah.
But they're good. Dallas Farmers or outside linebacker is a really good football player. He's a they're the most proven guys. A lot of the other guys are young, sophomore and freshman.
Yeah, I think Blackshear is probably their starting linebacker, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Dallas Turner is a junior. He's a good football player. Sean Murphy is their middle linebacker. He scares me a little bit because, again, you're playing a freshman.
Yeah.
So it's going to be this way. I think Alabama is going to be better, but they have a really a shot of where the defense, their secondary is going to have to play really well early on.
Yeah, their secondary is I think they're the glue to this defense right now, which is, Nick Saban's strong point. So we definitely will see. But, Makadra Moore, obviously, Kool-Aid, probably got one of the best first names in college football, being named Kool-Aid. But Kool-Aid McKinstry should be a first-round pick. I think some of these guys are like, they got some ballers back there, some highly talented, young guys back there that they came in. They got a guy named Devontae Smith on defense also. Just wanted to point that out. Spelled the same exact way as the wide receiver they had too. So I think we mentioned that before, Ray. It's kind of funny. But yeah, man, I think the defense is obviously, like you said, gonna be ran by that secondary. If they can hold them up a little bit, so maybe the offensive lineman can get to them. But like you said, Ray, they have a very young team.
It is a really young team, even in their backups. They're like freshmen, sophomores.
Yeah, but even with saying that, they're very talented freshmen. Like these are not just like regular freshmen. Like if they had a bad, or a mediocre, recruiting, then you can be worried. But a lot of these freshmen are very talented. It's just that they have a lot of them that could possibly, contribute early. So.
In Alabama, there's probably someone who's not even on this list right here that I have. They'll probably turn out to be a good player too.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's just how it is. So
yeah. So we'll definitely see how they do. Let's get to their schedule. Last year they only had 3 losses last year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
3 losses. Yeah. I know. I had work today talking about one of the losses, which was LSU last year, which was probably one of my favorite games last year. Watching that game was amazing. I love that game. That's definitely a fun game. But let's talk about their schedule. So they're gonna start the year out both home. They're gonna start out with Middle Tennessee, and then they're gonna be at home for Texas. They're gonna be away for South Florida. Home versus Ole Miss, away for Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Home for the next 3 games: Arkansas, Tennessee, and LSU. That's a fun stretch right there, and we'll talk about that in a second. They're gonna be away for Tennessee. They're gonna be home for Chattanooga, and end the season at Auburn. So, looking at their schedule, we'll be looking at, right?
They're at least 11-2.
Yeah.
2.
You can't. Yeah, I don't see them. Yeah,
I mean, honestly, like Texas A&M is a good roster. Yeah. Will they lose to Texas A&M? They could. If you ask me, do I think they won't? But it's at Texas A&M, and again, we keep waiting for Texas A&M to wake up and realize they're a good roster.
Yeah, for real.
But the LSU game, of course, they lost to LSU last year. Do I think they're going to lose to LSU again? I don't think so.
They
But I
could.
guess it's
They
possible.
could. They're home though. They are home.
They are home. I mean, honestly, besides
Right. I'll say this. Before you continue, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I'll say this: the hardest games this year, they're gonna be home.
Yeah, at Texas A&M is a tough game.
It is, but
the
toughest games.
The Tennessee game, the LSU game, which are two tough games in a row, are both at home. Yeah,
I think Texas can be a tough game too.
Yes,
the second game of the season. But
I think they almost lost to Texas last year in the second game of the year.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if they roll them this year.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes too. That is how it goes. Yeah. But just looking at how that works, because like you said, Texas lost obviously their best two running backs last year, Roschon Johnson, and obviously why I'm forgetting what's his name? Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson. Lost those two running backs this year, so they are not going to be the same offense. But they still got their two quarterbacks right now that going to play very well. I think. I know rate's not high on one of them, but we'll see how that goes, man. That competition is going to be very fun to see because obviously, if one does bad, the other one's going to play. And we talked about that when we talked about Texas earlier in the offseason. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. But that's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be only week 2, so I'm guessing it's going to be Ewing's playing that game for sure. South Carolina should be Ole Miss. I think they should beat Mississippi State. I think it's a solid team, but I think they should beat them. Texas A&M, I think they should beat them. Like we said, they could lose to them, but Texas A&M just stands in their own way for whatever reason. Arkansas, they should beat them. Tennessee and LSU are the two games I think they could lose. And if there is going to be two games they lose, it's going to be those two.
Well, that's the thing. Like I think there's 3 games: Texas A&M, Tennessee, LSU are games that even if they're favored to win, it will be a close spread.
Correct.
That's how I look at it. But if they lose, I'll tell you right now, if they lose to Tennessee, they're not losing to LSU the very next week. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, Jerome. It's not.
I'm gonna say this video just in case, because I hear you, Ray. I hear you, but dude, those two teams are good. Like
they are good. They're not Alabama though.
You're right, but also you see what Alabama is working with their quarterback. So
I think by then they're going to have their quarterback worked out.
Okay.
By then they'll know who's going to give them the best chance to win. And I hate to say this, you might see, because I think Ty Simpson may be the best passer of the 3 that from what I've seen so far. But you may see where they use 2 different quarterbacks most of the year.
That could be true. That's interesting.
I don't like that idea.
Yeah,
I don't either. That.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I haven't seen Alabama really do that since Jalen Hurts and
but that's the point that you have seen it. And when that happened, it was you had 2 guys who were both good. Yeah. So, this guy's not working this week. Let's give this guy a shot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you might be right. It might be one of the situations. So, but would it be a detriment to the team? Because you're right. Like, right.
Playoff time without a doubt.
But we knew that they had potential with both quarterbacks back then. We don't know these guys. We don't know if they're going to be as good as those two guys.
The crazy thing about it, and that's the only reason I brought up Tyler Buchner. He's the one guy I know.
Correct.
Real better than the other 2, to be honest.
So
what I know about Ty Simpson and Milroe are highlights, and I've seen them play some. Yeah. I've seen Tyler Buchner play really well and play bad.
Yeah.
But I see upside with his talent. His problem has always been once he starts to get his feet underneath of him, and then he gets hurt again. And then he's starting from square one again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, can't be consistent with the injury. So
No, and I mean, like even last year when they lost that stupid game to Marshall, the second game of the year,
oh
he
yeah,
played really well for spots and then played really bad in spots. And in the end, got hurt, lost in the game.
yeah, yeah. I remember that game. He was not happy coming back. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that too, man. That was not a fun ride home.
Yeah. That
That
was an
guy,
8 hour ride. You said?
no, that was when we took I think we took the plane out then.
Oh, okay, okay.
We flew out. That was just the one we went to. That was a great trip, except for Notre Dame losing.
Yeah.
We went to Chicago, watched the Cubs play in Chicago, and then spent the night in Chicago drinking, eating pizza and stuff. Pretty good night. And then the next morning, got up real early and went to the game. And Marshall kick our that. It was
Yeah.
funny. We were up 12-10 at halftime after playing like crap in the first half.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, man, we got it. We're okay now. And the very next drive, beginning of the third quarter, they jam it right down our throats. We could not stop them from running the ball last year.
Yeah. It's crazy, crazy. All right, let's get to our last team right now, and that's gonna be Georgia. So I know all of you Georgia fans are gonna be in here and checking us out. So definitely let us know what you think about Georgia this year. Obviously, Georgia been going through a lot of growing pains as far as losing a lot of NFL players, but they've been really good still, winning back to back championships. Looking for a third one this year, but it's a little bit different because they got a different quarterback at helm. Carson Beck. A lot of people honestly thought that he probably should have been starting over Benson. So he's gonna come in as the starter this year, and I think a lot of people have high hopes for him. Ray, I want to know what's your thought on Carson Beck.
I like him. I think he's a good prospect. I think he's going to be a good player for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he has two good receivers in Jack Saint and Len McConkey.
Yes.
I think they got the best tight end in college football and Brock Bowers.
Yes.
I think their offensive line up front is good
Yeah.
and not old, not young, but not like young, but not too young.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Georgia's going to be good again. They're going to be hard to beat again.
Definitely. Running back, Kendall Milton. I think he's going to be the starter for them. Solid guy. What's your thought about the running back position, Ray?
I like Milton. I like DeJohn Edwards. I think they're both guys that we've seen.
Yeah.
They've never been the guy, but they're both good, solid football players. And again, if I was Carson Beck, I would like to play on a team that has a good offensive line, good wide receivers, a great tight end, and a running back. We'll see. But
Definitely.
Georgia, they get running back, so I think they'll be fine there. Their defense is always good. It'd be hard just for me to see them not winning enough games to be in the playoffs again.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Let's get back to the the quarterbacks. Sorry, wide receivers real quick on this team. You mentioned Lad McConkey. He showed a lot of promise last year. Was the third guy. What would you think about him as being the guy now? He's probably going to be their number one guy in this offense. What do you think about him being the guy?
I think he's a good player. I like Jack Saint too.
Mm-hmm.
I think McConkey is kind of guy that you could use in the slot. You can use him outside. I think Arian Smith, their other wide receiver, is a guy that they need to step up and find a spot for him on the field for three wide receiver sets. I mean, again, their tight end is so good and draws so much coverage from like underneath from safeties, linebackers. I mean, I think you're going to get one-on-one coverage with your wide receivers, no matter who they are. So I think they'll be fine. It is going to be a question mark of how well the quarterback can play.
Definitely.
Even though I'm not a big fan of Stetson Bennett, he had good games, man, and he was just good enough to make plays for that team.
I agree.
No.
Yeah. And you talked about the tight end. I mean, best tight end in the NFL right now. I hear people already comparing him to Baby Gronk. I hate that I hate that comparison saying that.
It's a
But
person.
yeah, but he is a really good player. The backup Abe Rocks is a solid tight end as well. They got a freshman in there that I like a lot that I think he can get some playing time, and he might be the future at tight end for the Georgia Bulldogs. Is Lawson Luckily, I got to see him at Norcross last year. Very good player. I think he's going to be somebody to look at after Brock kind of leaves.
And he's more of a receiver too, right?
Correct.
Because their other tight end is Oscar Delg, and he's basically just a blocker.
Correct.
He's a blocking tight end. So
yeah, so I think luckily he's gonna get some playing time this year as well as a freshman. I'm super high on him. I think he's gonna be really good over there as well. Ray, you mentioned the offensive line, really good offensive line. Who kind of stand up for you there?
Xavier Truss, Cedric Van Pelt, Van Pran, Tate Radlich, basically from left guard to right guard. Again, their left tackle was Austin Blackie. He's a junior. And their right tackle, Amarius Mims, both played some last year, but neither one of them started. Now they're both going to be full-time starters. And, again, talented offensive line.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't highlight them is because they don't have enough games under their belt yet.
Correct. Yeah, definitely a solid offensive line. Let's get to the defense and the defensive line. And a guy that we got to interview some years ago, Nazir Stackhouse. I think he's going to have an incredible year. I'm really high on him. Ray, any other players or anybody that kind of sticks out to you?
Oh, of course, I like Stackhouse a lot. I like Jimmy Dumas Johnson, their inside linebacker. Smail Mandan, their other inside linebacker. Both are very good football players. They play a hybrid 3-4.
Yeah.
The one guy is an edge, one is a Mike Heed Smith is a hybrid, like a safety linebacker hybrid. But again, man, they do a lot of different things with their defense, but they're basically a base 3-4. So
yeah. Let's talk about their secondary a little bit. Tyke Smith is going to be one of their DBs back there. What's your thought on him?
Good football player. He's a guy who's a really good tackler. He played all over the defensive backfield. He's played some corner, some slot. He's played some safety. He's a really good football player. I like Kamari Lassiter, their other corner. He's a really good player. And both their other safeties, Javon Bullard and Malaki Starks, both guys that are versatile, that can play quarters and hold their own, and they come up and tackle too. I mean, Georgia's a good team. I know people keep thinking they're going to fall off the face of the earth, man, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
No, I agree. Just looking at
God.
No, I was going to say, I think their cornerbacks have potential to be better than the cornerbacks that just left. I honestly
agreed. Yeah. I think Lassiter's already a star.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good football player. Him and McKinstry are probably the best two cornerbacks in this conference and in the SEC. They're both going to be star players in the NFL, dude.
Because last year you had Cam Smith and Kuechly.
Yeah.
Kuechly Rango.
Yeah.
I think these guys are going to be better than both of them, honestly.
Yeah, I do. I think they're really good. I think, I'm a huge fan of Bullard, especially their one safety. He plays strong safety, but he's not bad against, like, he can cover some backs or some tight ends out of the backfield. Yeah. And he's a thumper. What's happening to you, man? I mean, that's the thing about Georgia that makes them – they're a very disciplined football team.
Correct. Yeah.
With playmakers.
Yeah.
That's the difference between – Alabama's the same. Alabama's been the same way. It's funny. Alabama and Georgia really mirror themselves on defense.
They do.
They really, really do, man. They look for the same type of players. They play a lot of the same schemes. Of course, Kirby Smart has a history at Alabama. Yeah. And for all the criticism, and I've been one of the ones at one time I thought, hey, Kirby Smart may never beat Nick Saban. But he's done it now. And you know what? He has a better winning percentage right now than Nick Saban does. It's only 9 years, but he's He is 81-15, Kirby Smart.
What?
81-15 in 8 years, man.
That's crazy. But I do wonder, like, because Nick Saban been in it like 15, 16 years, something like that.
Yeah, Nick Saban's been coaching 28 years, man.
Yeah. So like obviously the longer you play, the harder it is to keep that percentage up, obviously.
Of course.
So it is kind of range, but that is very impressive. That is very impressive stat. It really is.
It's impressive in the fact that he's still a young guy.
Yeah.
Technically, and he's already on top of his game, man.
Yeah.
Back national titles, except for Alabama and a couple of really prestigious programs, that usually doesn't happen. Not even in the SEC, except for Alabama.
No, I agree.
When's the last time you've seen LSU has had their moments?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Georgia, until recently, has had their moments back when I was younger. But now, except for Alabama, who has consistently done it?
Yeah, I agree.
Almost nobody. Auburn's had their days.
Mm-hmm.
Even Tennessee when I was young. You know,
Tennessee coming back, man. Tennessee definitely coming back.
They're a talented roster. They're the one team in the SEC who, if Nick Saban were to retire, or say just some reason he's like, you know what, I can't, I'm old, I won't do this anymore. I can see Tennessee being the program that becomes a real main rival of Georgia.
I can see that too.
Because they're a talented team. They just need to sustain. They need, you know where they are? They're Georgia 4 years ago.
Yeah.
They have a talented roster. They just got to make sure they put the right coach in place and let their program build now.
No, yeah. I agree.
They're a good roster.
Yeah, and you know, Georgia's definitely gonna be playing them this year. So let's get to it. Let's talk about them. Their schedule. So last year, Ray, what was their record last year, Ray?
They were 15-0.
Undefeated. But yeah, they definitely were undefeated last year. This year they're gonna start the season all home games, 4 home games in a row. UT Martin, it's going to be the first game. Second game is going to be Ball State. Third game is going to be South Carolina. Fourth game is going to be USB. Their first away game is going to be against Auburn. Another home game, they're going to play. Wait, they are a 1, 2, 3, 4. They got 5 away games. But anyway, home game against Kentucky. 2 away games to back-to-back, going to be Vanderbilt and Florida. 2 home games, Missouri and Ole Miss, and then end the season away versus Tennessee and Georgia Tech, which is like right down the street. Not really, but 45-minute drive, something like that. I'm actually trying to try. I might try to see if I can go to that game. But anyway,
yeah, man, if I was living where you are, I'd go.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to go. I'm definitely gonna try to go. It's gonna be a pirate blow, but
it's about like where we live, because I live close to everything we do.
Yeah.
You know where I live, but I don't live that close to a really good college program.
And that's the biggest thing when I came to the Atlanta area. I'm like, dude, I'm 3 hours from Tennessee. I'm 4, maybe 5 hours from Alabama. Obviously the teams that's in the state are here. I think I'm 6 hours from Missouri. Not too far from. I think I'm 6, maybe 7 hours from USC. What other teams? Like I'm so close to so many like good teams. Like it's insane. So
I mean, like I'm here. Like really, the best program that I'm probably close to is probably Penn State, and they're like 4 hours away.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see I guess I can go. I think some teams do play in Baltimore. I know Notre Dame played there last year.
Yeah.
You have some games there. So I guess that would be the closest place I could go to watch the game. Sometimes they play them up in like
but it's not a consistent team, you know.
No, it's not like I can go to that program every week and watch football.
Yeah.
To do that, I pretty much have to go to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it only happens every once in a while when Temple's a good program, when they're having a decent year. Even like when Rutgers, when they used to be okay, It was, but like nobody consistently, man. No one. It's really, ugh, ugh.
Crazy.
I used to go to, I think it's 1 year I won tickets to go to see all the Temple football games.
Mm-hmm.
I had this contest at where Lois was working in 7-Eleven. I forget I had to answer this question here, and I won these stupid. Dude, I had all 8 home games. Temple. You know how many games I went to?
One was Navy.
No, one was Virginia Tech, man.
Okay.
To watch Michael Vick.
Oh yeah. Okay. What was the other one?
You know what? I'm trying to remember who it was, Jerome. It was Temple against. Oh, they were playing Maryland.
Maryland. Okay.
Maryland. And
So
I forget who was put. Somebody good at Maryland, but I can't remember who it was. Oh, I don't remember that.
interesting.
Oh, I remember it was a tight end.
Maryland tight end. I can't think of it. Think of it.
As soon as I'm done talking to you, I'll remember.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works.
And it was
We'll
like,
talk about it in the next podcast then.
Honestly, Jerome, it was funny. Michael Vick was, I mean, obviously we know how talented he was.
Yeah.
He was so much better than everybody on both teams. It was ridiculous, man.
No, that's Michael Vick for you, man.
He was just like, he literally was just like running up and down the field, and no one could keep up with him.
Yeah. That 4.3 speed was insane.
It was crazy, man. Like wow, it was pretty exciting watching him play.
Definitely. I know we got a little off topic because it's probably not much to talk about with Georgia schedule, but any possible chance they won't be undefeated. Let's just take it like that.
If the Tennessee game was earlier in the season, I'd say that could be a hiccup for them. But that late in the game, no, I don't think so. I think they're going to go undefeated again.
Yeah, Tennessee's the best bet. Tennessee's the.
And if it were bet. Like from week 3, because usually when good teams trip, it's early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that game was in week 3 or 4.
Yeah.
4 or 5, and they were coming off a big win against Auburn, South Carolina. I think, maybe, but if they lose to Tennessee that late in the game, man, that's going to be really like
that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. But I'll say this, Ray. This Tennessee team, we're gonna talk about this Tennessee team going into next week. We're gonna talk about them, but Tennessee themselves only have maybe 3-4 teams that they could lose to. Georgia might be one of them. If they can beat Georgia, and they're home too, so it's like, like you wonder if this can be that game. I mean, it's clearly going to be the best game of the season. It's clearly
the only way I could say Tennessee could beat them is if Georgia has a lot of injuries.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia's definitely talented. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that Georgia won't win or Georgia could. I just think it's the best game they have. I think it's the best chance for Tennessee to kind of put their stamp on who they are. And again, we're going to talk about Tennessee later, but not too high on their quarterback. And we're going to talk about that. And there's a reason why I'm saying it. I think he's talented, but I got issues with him. And if you know. Let's just say that. But we're going to definitely talk about them next week. But so with that being said, make sure you go and check us out next week. We're going to be talking about Tennessee and a couple of other teams as well. We're winding it down, man. We got 2 more podcasts after this. The big name for next week is going to be Tennessee. The names after that is going to be our favorite team, which is Notre Dame and Michigan. We saved them for last on purpose, simply because we probably going to talk a little bit more on them teams being our favorite teams. But stay live with us, man. Hope you enjoy everything. Hope you enjoy talking about a lot of these big SEC teams. It's going to be a wild season. Some of the top teams are transitioning with, new quarterbacks. So I always think that's the most interesting when you don't know how the quarterbacks are necessarily going to play. You know, you got an idea. You know, Carson Beck. You got Jalen Monroe. You know, you got all these quarterbacks that's going to be in these big programs. New quarterbacks going to be a new program. So we'll see how this goes. Even Tennessee with the guy. So anyway, we're gonna talk about him next week. So that's gonna do it for us today, guys. Please make sure if you haven't, go on our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, follow us. Definitely make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button so you can know when we're live, so you can see all these us talk about these games and these teams, and go we can definitely talk about them and see how they're gonna do this year, man. Like I said, we're about to do Michigan soon, Notre Dame, Tennessee the next few weeks. So definitely stay locked with us on there. If you actually seen, you know, we got guys on here that went live. Big shout out to Rags and Fitness. Actually met him at a commitment party where Caleb Oden, he's a tight end. He committed to Alabama actually. So met him there. He's a cool guy. He's from Alabama. So appreciate you getting on with us, Rags and Fitness. You know, it's always good connecting with people and stuff like that. So if you want to be on here and you want to have your live comment on here like Rags and Fitness did, definitely go on here and see when we come on live, man. And if you can't get us on live, we are a very interactive podcast. So if you go on our replay, you can go on there, ask questions, you know, tell us what you think about some of these teams, how they're gonna fare, and you know, we definitely reply back on there as well. So that's gonna do it for us today, man. I'm Jerome Jones. That's Ray Roberts, guys. Thank y'all so much for coming on. Thank you so much, and we see you on the next one. Peace.